Welcome, everyone, to our Tuesday night chat. It's so good to be with you again. I'm Kelly Wilkins, your host from My Self Reliance, and tonight it's a gold show. It's gonna be brilliant. I want you all to hang on to your seats because at the end of tonight's show, we're actually going to announce the winner of our luxury glamping retreat. Yes, I have drawn the winner and I know who it is. And at the end of the show, I will reveal. So tonight we have a very, very special guest and a lot of people joining us in the Zoom room who are so keen to hear all about gold and silver. And this is a topic that we haven't uh, discussed yet on this channel. So I'm very excited to hear all about it. And I'm also going to take a back seat because Claudia has an amazing presentation for us. So I'm going to bring Claudia on, and here she is. Welcome, Claudia.
Hello, Kelly. Thank you for having me tonight.
It's absolute pleasure. Now, Claudia and I met at our Freedom Summit, and she introduced herself. And, when I heard about what her expertise is, I thought, we really need to have her come on and share with you all about it. So thank you, Claudia, for doing this. And I am going to hand it over to you and let you take it away.
Thanks, Kelly. Hi, everybody. My name is Claudia. Thank you for joining my presentation tonight on gold and silver and why you need to start saving with it now. As Kelly mentioned, I joined My Self Reliance last year when a friend said that I must bring my family to the retreat in October. And we came along and heard lots of great speakers and met Kelly and many of you all and had an absolute ball there. So what I'm going to do to start the presentation is I'm just going to share my screen. So can you all see my screen there?
Yes.
And if I click that to the right, you can see the disclaimer. Great. So just before I start the presentation, I just obviously need to show you the disclaimer there, which basically says none of what I'm talking about tonight is to be interpreted as a recommendation to buy or sell or, gold or silver or any financial product. And essentially you need to do your own research and to get advice from a registered financial advisor. And by staying in the presentation, you acknowledge that you understand that disclaimer. It's all just ASIC rules these days that we need to include all of those kind of things. So, how did I end up working in precious metals? Well, I studied law and commerce accounting at university, and I went on to become a certified practicing accountant and a solicitor. And it was around that time, about 25 years ago, I began to learn about the global financial system. I've always had a natural curiosity about how the world works, and I instinctively felt there was much more to learn than what was being taught at a surface level. So I began a journey then to learn about the history of money and the banking system. Contrary to what they teach you at school and uni, I learned that gold and silver have been the only real money for 6,000 years. And I came to the conclusion that as governments are getting us further and further into debt just to get re-elected essentially, with little care for future generations, that real money like gold and silver are really the only thing that are truly going to protect our wealth and that of our children's future. After having spent the earlier part of my career at one of the big firms and then subsequently at the Reserve Bank of Australia, I realised I wanted to work in areas that I was passionate about and that I could make a genuine difference in real people's lives and their futures. My family came to Australia from Europe after World War II with pennies in their pockets. They had absolutely nothing. Everything that they achieved in their life was through hard work, and that instilled in me a very strong work ethic and a wish to help regular people build their own generational wealth. And I came to understand that this kind of wealth has been built, protected and grown through generations via investing in inflation-proof assets like gold, silver and real estate. So I left the corporate world and I went and attained my real estate license and became a selling agent for many years. And this was mainly because I understood real estate, having been a long-term investor myself. and I could never find a real estate agent who I felt was particularly competent at assisting investors like me. They were all just about a transaction and they had no idea on how to create wealth. And knowing what I had learned early on about the financial system, it wasn't hard to shift my focus to want to work in precious metals. So I truly believe precious metals will be a big part of what saves people's hard-earned wealth and savings in the years to come, as we see an inevitable further decline and potential collapse in the purchasing power of fiat currencies, as we have already seen not only recently but in the last century. I wanted to work at Bullion Star because they have an outstanding reputation globally and an incredible customer service. Additionally, I knew the founder of the business, who was originally from Sweden, and I was able to attest to his high standards and integrity and his wish to help wake people up to the truth of the current monetary system. His goal in starting this business was to help more people become self-reliant through gold and silver ownership. So our values aligned and it was a good fit for me. So my role at Bullion Star is in account management and sales. And we are always looking for ways to bring value to our customers and make precious metals more accessible to everyone, no matter how little or how much you have to spend. And I'll talk more about that a bit later. So, why precious metals? For thousands of years, gold and silver have been recognized as real money and stores of value. So civilizations across the world, from Egyptians to Romans, and now our modern central banks, they have all relied on precious metals to preserve wealth. And gold and silver have stood the test of time as real money throughout the ages for several reasons. One, gold and silver are rare. They can't be easily created and they don't corrode, which makes them long-lasting stores of value. Second of all, they're easily tradable because they can be divided into smaller units and they're universally recognized. And thirdly, they have intrinsic value and practical uses. So both of the metals have other applications such as electronics, jewelry, medicine, and technology. So unlike paper money, which loses value over time, gold and silver retain their purchasing power and they act as a hedge against inflation. So until 1971, the world's reserve currency, which is the US dollar, was still backed by gold. In 1971, the US dollar officially left the gold standard. And after that move, the US dollar became a fiat currency, meaning that its value was no longer backed by gold, but instead by government decree, market confidence, and a really strong military. Today, central banks continue to hold large reserves of gold as a hedge against economic instability. So the largest buyer of gold in the world is China, which is closely followed by India. And together, those two countries account for more than half of the global gold consumption. They both know change is afoot in the global economic order and they're positioning themselves with gold so that they hold all the cards. The question is, why aren't we copying them? So, gold and silver. Why would you want to choose one or the other? So when investing in precious metals, you need to understand the unique roles of gold and silver because they are quite different. Gold is widely considered the safest store of value. It's not heavily used in industry and only about 10% of annual gold production goes into industrial applications. The rest is held as bullion, coins, or jewelry. And gold is the one that performs exceptionally well during times of financial crisis, monetary instability, and geopolitical uncertainty. And that is why central banks hold gold. And it's to hedge against inflation and protect the national reserves. Silver, on the other hand, has a dual role. While it's a precious metal like gold, about 50% of silver demand comes from industrial applications like solar panels, electronics, and medical devices. Because of this reason, silver can be more volatile in price and it reacts to economic conditions a lot more. So when you see volatility or recessions, silver doesn't tend to do quite as well as gold. And then, you know, if people are not buying things like solar panels or expanding into economic technologies that use silver, you will also see silver become more volatile and have a pullback. So ultimately, it's gold that's seen as the most reliable and stable asset for long-term wealth preservation, and silver offers higher growth potential more because of its industrial uses. So, what is the gold price telling us right now? The gold price has been on an absolute tear over the last 3 years in particular. This chart that I've put up there shows us the price of gold from 1970 all the way through to yesterday when I put that chart in there. The current price of gold as at today, 1 ounce of gold is approximately 4,790 Aussie dollars. Typically, gold is priced in US dollars simply because the US dollar is the reserve currency. So if you see the price of gold written in most places, it will be in US dollars, and that happens to be $3,012. As you can see from the chart, gold has just been reaching all-time high prices. Basically, we are at the highest point where gold has been in all of history. Since gold is considered a safe haven, it's been telling us that something is not right in the world over the last 3 years, rising over 85% in Aussie dollar terms, which in terms of any investment is a huge number if you think of what that is annualized, let alone gold, which tends to just be the slow and steady tortoise that is there to protect your savings. 85% is just extraordinary. The increase is really due to a combination of the geopolitical events that have been going on and the economic factors over the last few years, which have really heightened investor demand for gold as that safe haven asset. So the main reasons why gold has been outperforming lately have been the geopolitical tensions with the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the instability and hostilities in the Middle East. There's been a lot of stock market volatility lately, some declines and also recession fears at the moment. There's also been an anticipation of interest rate cuts by the Federal Reserve recently, which has made holding cash and treasuries less interesting for people. They prefer to hold gold if they think that interest rates will go down. Also, there's been all the tariff talk from Trump, and therefore it's created a lot of trade tensions between the US and China. And that also has driven the gold price. And finally, central bank purchases have been incredibly strong recently, especially China, who has been stockpiling gold month in, month out over the last several years, just really trying to build up their strength is what it's perceived as. So this is a snapshot from the Bullion Star website, which shows you the percentage growth of gold over various time periods up to 25 years, from 1 hour up to 25 years ago, which was 2000. So having worked in real estate, much like you would own real estate, gold and silver are purchases you make for the long term. They're not things typically you would be advised to be jumping in and out of. And from my experience in real estate, most people would feel extremely lucky if they managed to make 100% or double the value of their real estate over a 10-year period. And I just want to show you where I've put the red arrow so that you can see how gold has performed over the last 25 years. It's almost 1,000% in Aussie dollar terms. And in 10 years, it's 217%. So they're just blow away numbers for gold, which most people in the investment world tend to discard gold, or they think gold's not interesting because it doesn't move enough, or it's not exciting enough, or it doesn't have enough growth. Well, the numbers tell a different story. So it has clearly protected the purchasing power of your savings in an absolutely stunning way, all the while your purchasing power of your fiat currency has been eroding. So it's been doing its job really, really well. And you don't hear the mainstream media talk about these moves in gold. And I bet you've never heard our governments and your bank telling you to buy some gold to protect your wealth the way they do. Most fund investors have little interest in physical gold and silver because they're not educated in it, and they can't charge the kind of management fees they do for buying and selling shares. And I often think that one has to wonder why kids are not taught in school about owning gold and silver, given it has been money for 6,000 years and the only thing to survive every single fiat currency in history, all of which have collapsed. But I'll let you make your own assessment on the answer to those questions. So this slide shows you the performance of silver. Silver has performed well, but not as well as gold. So since 2000, it has grown about 555% in Aussie dollar terms, which is still pretty amazing, but gold has almost doubled that. So actually, because of that, the flip side is many investors do see silver as undervalued compared to gold. There is something called a gold-silver ratio, which compares the price of 1 ounce of silver to 1 ounce of gold. And in recent decades, that ratio has typically been around 60 to 1. Today, that ratio is 90 to 1, which is leading some analysts to believe silver might have significant potential upside. So at the moment, silver's about $33, and if it was back at 60 to 1 ratio to gold, silver would be US $50. So I want to talk about inflation now. Inflation is really just a hidden tax. So when governments print more money, they get the money printers going, it reduces the value of the money you've already earned and saved. So who gets to benefit from that? The early receivers of newly printed money, like governments, central banks, and financial institutions. And who loses from that? It's regular people like you and me who receive that devalued currency later on in the cycle. In contrast, gold and silver have withstood the test of time. And unlike paper money, which can be printed endlessly, gold and silver maintain their purchasing power across generations. Throughout history, 1 ounce of gold has consistently been able to buy a quality suit, whether in ancient Rome or today. We all know that if we look at prices over the last century, something that cost 1 cent 100 years ago now costs over $1 or more. So in fact, most fiat currencies still in circulation today have lost more than 99% of their purchasing power over the past century. I've put a little chart up there just showing all of the currencies since 1970, and you can see how much each of the currencies have depreciated versus gold since 1970. So the Aussie dollar is one of the worst performing in terms of the devaluation of our currency there. Some currencies have completely disappeared as well due to hyperinflation or government mismanagement or war. And hyperinflation, for anyone who's not aware, it's an extreme and rapid increase in prices in an economy which causes a currency to lose its purchasing power. And by definition, it's when inflation exceeds 50% per month and it makes goods and services unaffordable and making them nearly worthless. So one example of hyperinflation was 1923 Weimar Germany, and that was one of the most extreme cases of currency collapse in modern history. By the end of 1923, the mark had lost nearly all of its value, leading to situations where people were carrying, and you might have seen these pictures, they had banknotes in wheelbarrows to buy groceries. A loaf of bread, which cost 160 marks in 1922, within a year went to 200 billion marks. And because the currency was devaluing so quickly, workers were paid multiple times a day just so they could go and spend their wages before the prices went up further. Another country that's experienced this more recently is Venezuela. Since 2010, the Venezuelan bolivar lost 99.99% of its value due to hyperinflation. I want to show you this, if you can see it. This is a $100 trillion note from Zimbabwe that by 2009 was worth $1 US. So it just shows you how insane hyperinflation can make situations, and it makes all of the money you've got saved in the bank essentially worthless when the government decides to print more money. So those people in those situations, if they had gold and silver, and especially gold, they were still able to retain their purchasing power. Silver could be used for things like trading for essential goods or food, and people, especially people who held gold, were able to survive on the other side, rebuild and restart because their gold held its purchasing power. So during the 2008 global financial crisis, the banking system nearly collapsed and stock markets lost over 50% and real estate prices crashed. However, gold prices rose at that time from about 700 US dollars in 2007 to over $1,900 by 2011. Just 4 years later, it had more than doubled. And it really acted as a hedge against the financial instability. And as I mentioned earlier, over the last 3 years since 2022, the price of gold has increased by 85%. And a lot of that has been in response to surging inflation as well, post-pandemic. The question is, could a financial collapse happen again? Well, in 2020, the International Monetary Fund warned of a coming Great Depression that would be worse than that of 1929 or any other depression in history. And generally, when these global monetary bodies like this say something, we should be listening and reading between the lines. So my question is, what are we doing to get prepared? What are you doing to get prepared for this? Gold and silver have also helped people during war and geopolitical instability. So during World War II, Jewish families and others escaping Nazi persecution used gold to bribe officials or finance their escape. And during and after the Vietnam War, hundreds of thousands of Vietnamese refugees, boat people, used gold as a means of getting passage, survival, and resettlement. Gold retains its value across borders, making it a true lifeline for wealth preservation in times of crisis. So why was gold so important during these times? The first was that it's universally accepted. Unlike fiat currencies, gold has international value. The second is that it's easily transportable. So you can take small amounts of gold, which are very light, and they have significant purchasing power. And finally, it's a trusted store of wealth. So gold doesn't lose value, and therefore people are willing to trade with gold because they know that it's convertible, during it for themselves as well. So in case you've not heard about this before, I want to talk about the banking system a little bit. And if I'm moving a little too fast, because there is a lot to cover, please do let me know. We have a fractional reserve banking system. What this means is the banks only keep a small percentage of deposits as cash reserves and they lend out the rest, and this creates new money in the process. And this allows banks to issue more loans than they have in actual cash, which leads to economic growth, which is of course a good thing, but it also risks bank runs if too many people withdraw their money all at once. So a bank run occurs when everyone wants to withdraw their deposits at the same time, or they fear that the bank may collapse or become insolvent. One of the most recent notable bank runs occurred in 2023, which you may recall, when Silicon Valley Bank in the USA failed due to a massive withdrawal of funds by depositors. We have also seen, sadly, situations where banks freeze their customers' accounts without explanation, which is obviously a problem if that's where you're keeping all of your cash savings. You may recall in 2022, the Canadian government froze bank accounts of individuals involved in or supporting the Freedom Convoy protests at the direction of the government. And so hundreds of accounts were frozen, including donors who supported the convoy via crowdfunding platforms like GoFundMe. Cyprus has also suffered from this problem in 2013. They froze bank accounts and imposed a tax on deposits over €100,000, which was effectively stealing people's savings right out of their bank account. And then during the 2008 financial crisis, collapsing banks like Bear Stearns were primarily bailed out by the governments and central banks using taxpayer money. So you might have heard of bailouts, but have you heard of bail-ins? So this one shocked me when I found out about it. And I have to say, I don't think many people know about it, and people need to know about it. Since the G20 summit in 2014 in Brisbane, governments around the world have been quietly enacting the bank bail-in laws to ensure that if the 2008 GFC ever happened again, the savings of the depositors in the bank will be used to bail out the bank rather than the government or taxpayers. Let's just call the government taxpayers. In Australia, very quietly in 2018, with just 7 senators present, legislation was passed into law to enact these bank bail-ins. There was basically no press on it, and the ramifications for all Australians are absolutely huge. And then since then, Australia's banks have been very quietly taking action to prepare for a potential bail-in if a domestic or global financial crisis were to occur. So people who have got physical gold and silver outside of that system, they have options and they can protect their savings. They can liquidate their metals or they can trade them outside of the banking system if those things were to happen. And if you aren't preparing for this, then I urge you that it's time to start before it's too late. So this slide is what most people's portfolio might look like, except without the precious metals. Many experts would suggest that you add gold to protect you in the event that the other asset forms that you might have, if they go through a downturn or fail, and many people do see gold as an insurance for your portfolio. While I'm certainly not suggesting that you go putting all your savings and wealth into gold and silver, and no one would do that. However, I would suggest that you consider keeping something outside of that system so you've got something easy to liquidate if any of those other things that I've just talked about were to happen to us as a country or to you individually. So one of the distinctions I want to talk about that's really important actually is the difference between physical and paper gold, because one's real and one is literally just paper. Physical bullion bars and coins are the safest way to invest as they provide direct ownership of the metal and they have no counterparty risks. It's really crucial that you know that owning a gold exchange traded fund, or an ETF, which is the abbreviation, it doesn't equate to owning actual physical gold and silver. ETFs just represent shares in a trust fund, and the ETF ownership doesn't grant you direct possession of the physical bullion. It's why it's known as paper gold. The other thing is mining shares. Buying shares of gold and silver mining companies on the stock market is another route that some people like to gain exposure to gold and silver prices. And whilst you might get dividends, voting rights, and the capital growth of the stock, you are also exposed to the individual fortunes of that company, the competence of the management, and let alone the operational risk of the mining operations, which are very often located in very unstable and dangerous countries with corrupt political systems. So for real true wealth, owning physical bullion is really the safest choice over paper gold. So the big question I know everyone will have is, how much do you need to start if you haven't already? And one of the biggest misconceptions about investing in gold and silver is you need a really large amount of money, and that's just not true. You can start with really small purchases like a single silver coin, which is 1 ounce, or a fractional gold bar. And if you're looking to accumulate precious metals gradually, the Bullion Savings Program, which we offer at Bullion Star, is a way you can build up your holdings over time, as you can purchase just 1 gram of silver or gold at a time. So many investors will accumulate their holdings over time by dollar cost averaging their purchases. The important thing just really is to get started, and even a small investment can really give you financial security in the long run. So I just want to talk about the types of physical precious metals, mainly just the bars versus coins. Numismatics is not something I'm really going to go into. That's really for collectors or people who are looking for rare coins. And they're typically at very high prices over what the spot price of gold would be. So whilst we do sell numismatics, it's not something I would necessarily recommend for a beginner investor. You need to have a lot of experience in understanding what you're buying when you buy numismatics. So let's just talk about bars and coins. Bullion refers to investment grade bars and coins, which are made from pure gold and silver. So that's like 0.9999 or 0.99 sort of 5. So very, very high level purity of gold and silver. Bullion bars look like this. This is a 1 kilo silver bullion bar. And they come in various sizes and are usually produced by reputable refiners such as Argor Heraeus and PAMP and Metalor, which are located in Switzerland and Germany. And these bars usually have lower premiums over the spot price, which I'll talk about shortly. Then you've got coins, which look like this. And these bullion coins are minted by governments and they're widely recognized. So, for example, you've got American Eagles, which is this one. You can see the eagle on there. And then a Canadian maple leaf. So they're really lovely coins. That's a maple. And I've got a silver one as well. And then I've got a Perth Mint kangaroo. And then there's things like Austrian Philharmonics and plenty of other coins. So while coins tend to have a slightly higher premium, they do offer advantages like an easier resale, collectible value, and an aesthetic appeal. But both bars and coins are excellent choices just depending on your goals. If you're buying larger amounts, bars are better value. If you want flexibility and liquidity, which means you want to be able to sell them really quickly and easily, then coins can also be the best way to go. So when you purchase bullion, the price that you see at the time of the purchase, it varies minute by minute on a bullion dealer's website. And that's in response to the market movements. The total price, it comprises of two key components. So the spot price plus the premium. Now the spot price is the market price for precious metals on the London spot market. And that price you'll see quoted as US dollars. Then the premium, when you buy precious metals, the price you pay is slightly above the spot price. So this adds the premium, which covers the costs associated with, for example, extracting, refining, delivering the metal to its final form, as well as transport, insurance, storage, and retail expenses. So that's basically the profit that the bullion dealer is making, is the premium on top of a spot price. And a good dealer will always let you know the difference between what the spot price is and what their premium is, so that you can make a comparison between different dealers for what's a good deal for you. And then the premium can also fluctuate depending on market conditions, depending on supply and demand. So at the moment, large gold bars are in high demand because the US is trying to get a lot of gold in, ostensibly, if you may have heard about it on the news, because they want to audit Fort Knox. So premiums for large gold bars at the moment have gone up higher. In fact, you can't even buy large gold bars like the ones that central governments buy at the moment. So then there's the spread, and the spread is the difference between the buying and selling prices. So you will buy with a premium, and then when you may want to go and sell that bar with your dealer, there will be a spread, which is, again, the profit that the dealer makes in essentially being the exchange medium of which you're buying and selling that product. So you have got multiple ways to store your metals once you've purchased them. So you can either take delivery of your coins and bars and you can store them at home, or there are plenty of places, I'm sure many of you would know, to store them at home. The advantage is, of course, there is immediate physical access, which is a great advantage. And it's always good to, if you are investing in precious metals, to have a portion of your precious metals on hand. If you are planning to invest in a large amount of precious metals, it is good to vary this up, because obviously there are security issues regarding obviously keeping your precious metals at home. Obviously privacy, there can be insurance challenges in doing that. You may not find your insurance company wants to insure them, and obviously as soon as you do want to insure them, then you have to tell someone about them. So the idea is you want to keep it a secret if you are keeping them at home, but you also want to make sure you remember where you put your precious metals. The next option that you have, which would typically be in your own jurisdiction, your own country, your own city, would be a safety deposit box. So the good thing about those is they offer professional security and typically insurance with them, or you can take out insurance and pay extra. It's completely private. So when you take out that box, you don't have to tell the owner of the facility what it is you're putting in that box. So it's completely private. The downside to both the safety deposit box and the home storage is, if you want to sell your bullion, you will have to go and bring your metal in person to a dealer to sell it. And that you only have access to that physical metals during the facility's opening hours. So If it's a public holiday, they might not want to let you in, and you might want your metals that day, for example. So then there's the third option is to vault your metals offshore. Now, this is an interesting one for people who may want to keep some of their assets outside of their home country. So that's called having geographical diversification. You may not want to have all of the things you own in one country for one reason or another. And these allow you to operate your account online 24/7. So you can buy, sell, manage your account, day or night, no matter what the market's doing. So if you would be considering an option to do offshore vaulting, I can definitely say that Singapore is the most renowned place in the world to store physical precious metals, and it's been ranked the safest country in the world. Singapore has a really strong rule of law and a strong respect for property rights, and has been nicknamed the Switzerland of the East. In Singapore, there's no requirements to report owners' holdings of precious metals to the government, and there are no taxes on buying, selling, or storing precious metals. So last week, I made a bit of a fun video about storing your precious metals, which I'm going to show you.
To just so that we can hear, do you want to be able to have volume?
Oh, can you hear it?
No. So when you have to stop share and share again, and before you share again, just click a button that says share audio.
Oh, okay. Let me just have a quick look. So stop share and
Yeah.
then,
And then share again.
yeah,
And before you click the share button,
share
there should
sound.
be a
Yep.
little box that you check that says share audio.
Share
Share
audio.
like a video. I can't remember. It's been a long time since this.
Let's have a look. Stereo, share sound. Let's try that.
I noticed you did have captions though, so if we can't hear it, we can read it.
Let's try. Nope. Let me just have a look. Can you
So yeah,
can you see
before we are able to see this screen, as
Can
long
you
as
hear
you've
that?
checked. No, not yet.
No, I can't hear it. Okay, we might skip it.
Do you want?
I think I have to. Can you see? You can still see the screen.
We
then
can
if I
see,
do
yeah.
that?
Yeah. We can
Okay.
see your slide chat too, your slide comments.
Okay.
There you go.
Let's have a look. Stop share. Let's have a
Yeah.
look. Share.
So now if you click the green button, share,
Of this one.
it'll be, and then you've got all the different boxes of which you can pick, what you want us to see.
Yep.
Down the bottom of that, right down the bottom,
Yep.
there'll be a little checkbox. And
I don't have the
there's two check boxes actually, and that'll give you the option to
Oh, I see. Share sound. Yep.
Yes.
Okay, let's try that. Share.
It's really tricky, guys, if you've ever been in this position and you want to share a screen and sound and all of that.
Okay, I think this
Let's
should
try
work,
that.
I think.
Should work. Beautiful.
Hey everyone, so you've got some gold and silver coins that you'd like to stash away. Where do you hide them? All right, first up, the kitchen. Now tell me, would you ever look for treasure in the freezer? Exactly, it's the perfect spot. Here's what you do. Take a few of your coins, wrap them in some baking paper. You do want to keep them safe and clean. And here's the fun part, bake them in some bread. Voila. A loaf of bread that's actually worth its weight in gold.
Wow.
Once it's done, pop it in the freezer. No one's checking frozen bread for treasure. Now for my DIY folks out there, this one's a classic. Ever seen a dusty old paint tin sitting in the corner of your shed? That's our next secret stash spot. Take an empty dried up paint tin, put your coins inside a plastic bag, pop it inside, sit it on the shelf and let it collect some dust. A burglar's never going to look there. Okay, let's move on to the pantry. And no, I'm not talking about a cookie jar. We're going full on secret agent mode with this one. Grab an old tea box, one no one in your house uses anymore. Put your coins in the bottom. Close the box, put it in your pantry, and boom, you've got a tea chest that's fit for a queen. So there you have it. 3 sneaky foolproof ways to hide your coins that no one will ever suspect. Or if you want an easier way to protect your precious metals, check out Bullion Star's Vault Storage, arguably one of the safest bullion storage solutions in the world. If you loved these tips, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more epic content like this. See you next time. So that was just a fun little video that I made a couple of weeks ago for Bullion Star. Just it was meant to be tongue-in-cheek, by the way. I don't advise you to bake your coins into bread. First of all, because the plastic would melt. But technically, you could slip them in some and put it in the freezer if you wanted. The idea, if you're going to do home storage, is you want to put them in places that burglars are not going to be looking for. So not in your safe typically, because that's the first place they're going to look. So a lot of people do something called midnight gardening, which is when they go out to their garden in the night so the neighbors can't see, and then they do their hiding then. So anyway, that is just one of the options. Now I just want to move on to talking about selecting a trustworthy dealer. Can you see my share screen again?
Yes.
Yep, that's
beautiful.
all good. Okay, so there are several factors that you really want to consider when you choose a bullion dealer. One is obviously the reputation and the credibility of your dealer. So you want to be sure you're researching your dealer's reputation through reviews, ratings, and industry experience, and make sure you choose one who has a history of reliability and transparent policies. Second of all, make sure that the metals that you're buying are authentic and that their authenticity and the purity is guaranteed. So ensure your bars and coins come from recognised mints like the Perth Mint, like these type of Royal Canadians. You only want to buy the really common stuff, which is really easy to then sell as well. Other refiners are PAMP, Argor Horaeus, and when you buy those bars, they typically come with bullion certificates, which will guarantee the authenticity. So some bars like this one, for example, have their stamp already on them. The other thing you want to do is as I mentioned earlier, you want to make sure that your bullion dealer is giving you transparent pricing. So you want to know how much over spot price they're charging. You want to know what their premium is essentially. You want to avoid dealers who are charging really high premiums or hidden fees. Then you also want to be sure that your dealer will buy the metal back from you, and that they have a program in place to do that. So there are popular products like the 1 ounce gold and silver coins like these ones, and they're often the easiest to sell just because they're very common and easily recognizable. So some of the more practical purchasing considerations, you want to be sure that your dealer is offering you multiple ways to pay. So make sure you're not using a dealer that's just wanting you to pay cash without giving you a receipt. You want to be sure that your dealer is offering you good customer service, that their website's giving you a great deal of education, especially a lot of guidance for new buyers. So dealers are used to this type of thing, and they should be very helpful when you ask them a lot of questions and you want to go through all of those things before you buy. So do look for dealers who do provide educational resources. Now, the other thing is tax implications. Some countries do impose taxes on investment grade bullion purchases, however, not Australia and not Singapore. So therefore you can ship investment grade bullion, which is the high purity bullion, from Singapore to Australia without either duty or GST being imposed on either end. So the best place to see more information about that is the Australian Border Force website, and that gives you all of the rules around it. The other thing is avoiding scams and counterfeits. So you want to make sure that the items you're buying are of proper weight. There are certain typical weight sizes and amounts that a bullion is sold in, and you want to be sure that the refiner stamp is on your bullion. For example, this one here has got the mark of Heraeus at the bottom, which means you know that it has come from that refinery. So do also do your research to check if your dealer is fully backing your allocated metals if you do choose to store with them. A former political advisor and economist in Australia, he's recently done extensive research and been very vocal about bullion dealers fully backing their allocated metals. And you can look him up online to read about his work. His name's John Adams. So almost there. Now, why choose Bullion Star as your dealer? Bullion Star has been in business since 2009. We've got about 2,600 Facebook reviews of 5-star and almost 4,000 Google reviews with a rating of 4.9. We have an online account system where you have full control over your bullion and investments 24/7, which means you can buy, sell, withdraw, and manage your bullion at any time of the day or night. And that means you can take advantage of market movements from home without having to go in person to see your bullion dealer. That's if you do choose to store with Bullion Star. The other great thing about us is that we do have, you can pay with Australian dollars to our Australian bank account. There are no international transfers required. And one of the ways, as I was mentioning earlier, that we like to make precious metals available to everyone is through our bullion savings program, which means that you can purchase fully backed gold or silver in 1 gram amounts. So for example, 1 silver gram is approximately 2 Australian dollars. And you can build that up over time. So you can essentially make fractional purchases and dollar cost average without having to buy a whole coin or a whole bar. And then later on, you have the option to convert that physical metal with no conversion fees if you want to. And then when you do sell, if you do, the time does come to sell or you want to exchange, and sell, the money goes back into your account within about 2 business days. So the other thing we're really proud of is that since 2014, we were the first bullion dealer in the world to allow customers to buy and sell in cryptocurrency, which means that we support our customers being able to be truly independent of the financial system because you don't necessarily then need to use a bank account to buy or sell your precious metals. We also offer vault storage, and one of the best aspects of our vault storage is that it is fully integrated into our online platform, which meaning as a storage customer, you've got full control to buy, sell, deposit, withdraw, and audit your precious metals at any time. So, when you sign up for a free account with Bullion Star, you just need to enter your basic details, and we offer 10 grams of free silver upon signing up. And you're able to do that at bullionstar.com/new account. And then when you become my client, I'm able to give you access to special offers that aren't available to the general customers on our website. So it's a great reason to sign up for a free account. And I usually do that monthly. And I've also got a special offer tonight for anyone who does listen to this presentation. You can purchase a minimum of 600 Aussie dollars within 7 days of signing up for your account, and you'll get a free 1 ounce silver coin. Just be sure if you do that to send me an email to let me know at claudia.merkert@bullionstar.com. So, last slide. I just want to finish by saying gold and silver have been the foundation of wealth preservation for thousands of years. Whether you choose gold for its stability or silver for its growth potential, or a mix of both, owning physical bullion is one of the best ways to secure your financial future. So if you're considering protecting your wealth from inflation and uncertainty, there's no better time to start investing in precious metals. Thank you for listening. If you'd like to have a personal phone call with me to discuss how you can start saving, please reach out to me at claudia.merkert@bullionstar.com. Thanks, Kelly. Has anybody got any
Beautiful.
questions?
Yeah, thank you, Claudia. I think I'm going to throw it over to the does everyone take a screenshot of that if you want to take a screenshot, and also pop in your email address, Claudia, into the chat.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I'll throw it over to the audience. If anyone has any questions, now's the time to ask your questions. I know I
As I said,
learnt.
you are very welcome to reach out to me and if the questions come, because I'm sure things will maybe not come to you now, that
Percolate,
might come to
yes.
you later. And yeah, feel free to reach out to me later if you do think of something that you haven't thought of tonight.
Yeah. No, I think it's been very comprehensive. There's a lot of information. And maybe just we'll stop share and then we'll just open it up to our guests. Beautiful.
I've just
Um,
popped my email address in in the chat there.
Perfect. Lovely. Now, Claudia, I do know that there's some more questions in the chat, and I know Maz is keen to ask a question, but I
Yes.
also am aware that people need to jump off, and I want to just announce our winner, and then we'll come back to any questions that people have. Is that okay, everyone? So, to do that, I'm actually going to share with you a little video that I took earlier, and which announces the winner. Um, so that you can see that it was all properly done. So, okay, now I'll just share my screen. Go. I'm so excited. We're about to do Could
the
everyone hear
draw
that?
for the trip to Lily Pond's
No,
Eco
you can't, can
Retreat.
you?
There you can see we've got the glamping tents,
No,
Lily Pond, the luxury is
We
all
can
here
hear it.
waiting for you.
you
So
can hear it?
if you have watched the video
Yes.
and you commented
Oh, okay.
on the video or you attended live at our Tuesday night community chat, your name will be in here. So I'm very, very excited for all the winners. All right, here I have it. It is Jeanette. We're looking forward to having you, Jeanette, at our Lily Ponds retreat. And I also want to do one more giveaway. So you're officially, Jeanette, our winner. But I also want to give a 2-night stay for Rochelle Cardwell. Congratulations to Jeanette and Rochelle Cardwell. You reached out to Simon about a property, so I'm putting you in the winnings as well. Well, congratulations. So, congratulations, Jeanette. Yay! And Jeanette's on tonight. So, well done.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I didn't expect that. Thank you.
Beautiful. I'm glad that you could be here to see your name be drawn. And also congratulations to Rochelle Cardwell as well. So, um, we'll get in touch afterwards, Jeanette, and we will talk about how you can collect on your winning prize. Uh,
Thank you.
and I will just want to say thank you to everyone for coming along tonight and for your interest. And I want to say thank you again to Claudia for all her expertise on this subject. And you can reach out to her and ask her some more questions. But thank you so much, everyone, for being here. And it was really fun to do that draw and a giveaway. So might have to think about how we can do that again. But I also have a very special announcement that a way that My Self-Reliance is getting together this year. We are announcing on the 21st of June, put that date aside, we're having a My Self-Reliance barn dance in Rose Hill in Parramatta, so near Parramatta. So we'd love to have you all there. We'll get that information more out to you shortly. And it's a fundraiser that we're doing, but a community get together. And we're looking forward to having you there. We're going to have lots of giveaways and prizes and raffles and great things there. So we just by way of announcement as well, there'll be no My Self-Reliance chat next Tuesday. I'm actually away doing a course. We will be back on the 8th. We will be back on the 15th. And then there'll be no call on the 22nd because it's the Easter Tuesday, school holidays. But we will be back on the 29th. So the 8th, 15th, and 29th, we're here this month. So take next Tuesday off. All right, everyone. Thanks so much again for joining us. Do reach out to Claudia if you have more questions, and thanks for really clarifying how, what a great investment gold and silver can be. So Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Kelly. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for staying on and listening.
Awesome.
Thanks, Kelly and Claudia, and
Thank
good
you.
night to all.
We'll see you in 2
Good
weeks.
night.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Claudia.
Wonderful
Thanks, Kelly.
presentation. Thank you.
See you.